Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. I've been getting a lot of questions about how to get your water culture orchids, specifically Phalaenopsis orchids, through the winter as happy and healthy as you possibly can. That is a really good question, and it is often challenging getting Phalaenopsis orchids through the winter because during the winter months, all of the energy of the plant is going towards spiking and blooming and maintaining those blooms. You don't see a lot of root growth in the wintertime. And so, especially in water culture, you're looking at your roots thinking, oh no, the roots aren't doing anything. Well, it's because that's really not the time that the roots grow. So what you want to do is just make sure that your roots are maintaining as much as possible. I haven't lost many roots off of this Phalaenopsis orchid at all, and it's been in water culture now for about a year and 5 months. Usually the rule of thumb is either a Phalaenopsis orchid really takes to water culture, and when that happens, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Or it doesn't like it at all. And when that happens, you're fighting an uphill battle. Normally, those types of Phalaenopsis orchids won't come around in water culture, and you're just going to see more and more roots rot. So, of course, this is wintertime, so this is not a good time to even put an orchid in a different media because that's going to cause it to rot even more. So if that's happening to you, what I would suggest is just wait until spring. Wait a few months until the days start getting a little bit longer, the days start getting a little bit warmer, and place it back into some premium orchid grade Sphagnum moss, and your orchid will most likely just rebound beautifully. But let's talk about how to get our water culture Phalaenopsis orchids through the winter as best as we can. I have been giving this orchid some higher temperatures and some more sunlight. It's receiving a lot more light than it did this time last year. It was in an eastern facing window in my home, and now of course it's in an eastern facing window in my orchid room. So it is definitely getting more light and it's doing better. Another thing I'm doing is the nights here, the night temperatures are getting quite cold this week. They're hitting the teens. Last night was 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I can't maintain my orchid room, the temperature at night, up to where I like it for my Phalaenopsis orchids in water culture. For the ones in moss and for the ones in bark, it's fine. For them to be in like 66 degrees. But I really like to keep my water culture phals a little bit warmer than that. More like 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees centigrade. So I'm bringing them in at night into my house, which is just a little bit warmer. I've discovered that even those few degrees at night, the more warmth that you give them this time of the year, I believe the happier they are. That is in my experience anyway. So I'm trying to give it as much light as possible and higher temperatures. Think the warmest room and a little bit of sun every day for these is going to be really good. It's going to help you to get it through the winter months happy and healthy. And here's another success story in water culture. This little Phalaenopsis, I've had it for about a year and a half, and this is the first rebloom. So I've had several questions. Okay, when do we fertilize our water culture Phalaenopsis and when do we not? At this point, it is setting buds. So I am not fertilizing it at this point. It will be fine not being fertilized until it's bloomed out. I'll tell you why. These leaves, they're thick. They are really good storage centers for nutrients. So the plant stores up its fertilizer, the nutrients in the fertilizer. And then about this time, when it's setting buds, it's pretty much pretty much has all the energy for this one to bloom that it needs at this point. Okay, now over here, this one has been in bloom now for about 3 months. I am using a low dose fertilizer on this one on sunny days only, sunny warm days. If it's snowing, I'm not going to come back here and fertilize it. That just, that makes sense. It doesn't have the warmth, it doesn't have the sunshine to break down the nitrogen. We're not having root development much right now, but I'm wanting to maintain the plant so that it's healthy. So I'm giving it very low dose of fertilizer at this point, which is about 150 to 175 parts per million. It's about 1/8 of a teaspoon of my fertilizer. Very low dose. So that's what I'm doing as far as fertilizing is concerned. And I am seeing just really good results with that. So I'm very happy with that routine. And another question I'm commonly asked is, can I convert a Phalenopsis orchid to water culture in the winter? Please don't do that. That's going to make your life pretty difficult. I did that one day last year. It was kind of an emergency water culture conversion. One of my Phalenopsis orchids was just not doing well, and so I did convert it over to water culture. Let me make the mistake for you. I had root rot until springtime, and it was not fun. So the roots aren't going to be growing in the wintertime, and the mentality behind repotting your orchid is you want to do that right as it's going into some active root growth. Either in the springtime is ideal or in the early fall. The roots will establish better in a media during those two times. And I believe that that is true for water culture as well. If you're going to change anything with your Phalenopsis orchids, make it in the earlier part of the spring and early fall, and you will see that the roots will establish easier for you, and it just makes your life so much easier. And also keep in mind that if you're a beginner, that water culture is not the easiest method to grow, especially Phalenopsis orchids in. Like I said earlier, they either love it or they hate it. And I would highly suggest, if you're a beginner, to learn to grow in media first, get a good fertilizing routine down, learn how to grow your plant before you go putting any of your Phalenopsis orchids in water culture. You have to have an absolutely ideal environment to grow in water culture. If your environment is too cold, you're going to struggle. And if you're a beginner, you're going to struggle. Bark and moss act as a buffer as far as temperatures are concerned, and also they're easier to deal with when you're a beginner. And another thing to pay attention to in the winter is your humidity level in your room, in your growing room. I did add a humidifier to my grow room, and it has benefited all of my orchids. Especially my water culture orchids have been staying hydrated this winter, whereas last winter I was really struggling with keeping the roots that are growing out of the water, the top part. Do you see how these are green? This time last year they were not, they were dry, and I was having to come back and spray the roots down pretty often. So the humidifier has really helped. So I'm very, very happy that I added that to my grow room. It's made my life a lot easier. And I just want to wish all of you a very happy new year. I'm hoping you have a fabulous 2018, and you all be highly favored, deeply loved, and greatly blessed. And thank you so much for watching. And we'll talk to you all next time.